Hey there, Virgo. I'm back and here for the reading. So, I am doing a reading for you. These are timeless readings for really whoever finds it, but I am titling it a Virgo reading, thinking of it from that perspective. So, thanks for joining me. Let's see what's going on. Really positive reading so far. Wow.
Uh, you've been doubting what you sense from someone, haven't you? Telling yourself you're reading too much into things, that you're projecting what you wish were true. But what if your intuition has been accurate all along and it's your doubt that's been lying to you? Let me tell you what I'm detecting in the frequencies surrounding you right now. The first thing breaking through the noise is this intensity you might be picking up on from someone's direction, an energetic weight that feels disproportionate to how casually you might think they regard you. You could be experiencing their presence in your awareness far more often than random chance would explain. You might be noticing that you feel them reaching towards you psychically, sensing their name about to appear before it does, experiencing dreams where they show up with startling emotional clarity. And all of this is information about how powerfully you're registering in someone else's internal world, even if the external dynamic appears more measured. Here's what you could be observing if you're paying close attention. You might be picking up on someone who's demonstrating restraint that feels almost painful in its deliberateness. You could be sensing the gap between how someone shows up around you and the actual magnitude of what's moving through them beneath that controlled surface. You might be experiencing interactions that feel loaded, where simple exchanges carry undertones of something much heavier being held back, and that tension between what's expressed and what's suppressed is creating the exact doubt you're wrestling with. What's pulsing through the invisible channels is that you could be dealing with someone who's caught in an internal war. You might be sensing their desire to reach out, to close distance, to reveal what they're actually experiencing, colliding constantly with fear, with pride, with uncertainty about how you'd receive them. You could be picking up on someone who's composing and deleting messages, who's finding excuses to be where you are while pretending it's coincidence, who's asking mutual contacts about you while acting like it's casual curiosity. And all of this hidden activity is creating energetic ripples. You're absolutely feeling, even without concrete proof, this reflection invites you to consider what you've been dismissing as wishful thinking. That might actually be your perceptive abilities working exactly as they should, reading signals your conscious mind has been trained to discount. You might be experiencing confusion about why someone who seems so affected by you isn't just being direct about it. You could be picking up on all this intensity and wondering why it doesn't translate into straightforward communication, into clear pursuit, into vulnerability that doesn't require you to decode it. What's threading through the patterns is that you might be dealing with someone for whom the stakes feel enormous, someone who's experiencing what they feel for you as potentially life altering. And that magnitude is precisely what's creating the paralysis you're observing. What's revealing itself in the static around you is that you could be sensing someone's obsessive quality of focus on you. You might be picking up on being thought about constantly, being weighed in someone's decision making processes, being the reference point against which other people and possibilities are being measured. You could be experiencing someone who's tracking your energy, your availability, your patterns, not in a way that's invasive, but in a way that speaks to how central you've become to their internal landscape without you having done anything to claim that territory. What's interesting about this particular constellation of signs is that you might be observing someone who's more comfortable with longing than with risk. You could be picking up on someone who's built an entire relationship with you in their imagination, conversations they wish they could have, futures they entertain in private moments, versions of intimacy they rehearse mentally. You might be sensing all this fantasy energy directed at you, and because it stays in the realm of the unspoken, you keep questioning whether it's real or whether you're manufacturing connection that doesn't exist. Um, you might be noticing physical manifestations of this person's preoccupation with you. You could be experiencing them showing up in spaces where they know you'll be, even if they seem surprised to see you. You might be picking up on their awareness of details about your life that they'd only know if they were paying much closer attention than casual acquaintance would warrant. You could be observing that they remember things you mentioned in passing weeks ago, that they've absorbed your preferences, that they seem to have cataloged information about you is less than #0. 5 is greater than. And all of this speaks to someone who's studying you because you matter to them in ways they haven't found words for yet. What's coming through in the undercurrents is that you could be dealing with someone whose external composure is costing them enormously to maintain. You might be sensing the effort it takes for them to seem unaffected, to act like you're just another person in their orbit when internally you've become gravitational. You could be picking up on moments where their mask slips slightly, a look that lasts too long, a response that's too quick or too defensive, an energy that betrays how much your proximity affects them. And these glimpses are confirming what your deeper knowing has been telling you all along. This reflection invites you to consider what you gain by continuing to doubt what you sense, and whether that doubt is protecting you from vulnerability or preventing you from acting on accurate information. You might be experiencing a situation where this person's behavior toward you doesn't match conventional expressions of interest, so you've concluded interest must not be there. You could be looking for a pursuit that follows familiar patterns, direct communication, obvious flirtation, clear invitation, and because you're not seeing those specific markers, you're dismissing the unconventional ways care and captivation are showing up. You might be dealing with someone whose love language is different from what you're listening for. Someone who demonstrates through service, through quality of attention, through subtle shifts in availability, rather than through words or traditional romantic gestures. What's pulsing through the field around you is that you could be picking up on someone's fear of rejection being so acute that they're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. You might be sensing someone who's convinced themselves you don't see them that way, who's interpreted your lack of initiation as lack of interest, rather than as you waiting for clearer signals from them. You could be observing two people both holding back because both believe the other isn't interested. And the energetic traffic jam this creates is precisely what's keeping both of you stuck in this ambiguous space. The signatures I'm reading suggest you might be experiencing someone who's more invested in you than in anyone else in their current landscape, yet you never know it from how they present externally. You could be picking up on someone who's available to others in ways they're not available to you, more relaxed, more casual, more obviously friendly, because those connections don't threaten them the way you do. You might be sensing that with you specifically, they're guarded, measured, careful, and counterintuitively, that heightened carefulness is evidence of how much you matter, not how little. What's also emerging is that you could be dealing with someone who's waiting for permission they don't realize they need to give themselves. You might be sensing someone who's looking for a sign from you that it's safe to approach, that they wouldn't be disrupting your life or overstepping boundaries by revealing the depth of their regard. You could be picking up on someone who's created stories about why now isn't the right time, why they should wait until circumstances shift is less than #0, 5 is greater than, and those stories serve the function of protecting them from the terrifying prospect of being fully seen and potentially rejected. This reflection invites you to consider whether you've been waiting for this person to be braver while also not showing them any indication that their bravery would be rewarded, and what would shift if you made your own interest even slightly more visible. Um, you might be noticing that your doubt about this person's feelings serves you in certain ways. You could be experiencing safety in uncertainty if you don't know for sure how they feel. You're protected from having to make decisions about what you want, from having to be vulnerable yourself, from risking the dynamic you currently have for something undefined. You might be observing that staying in this space of, I don't know if they're interested, allows you to remain passive. And there's comfort in that passivity, even as there's frustration in the ambiguity. What I'm tracking in the atmospheric pressure around you is that this person's obsessive quality of thinking about reaching out is creating actual energetic buildup. You could be experiencing this as increasing synchronicities, seeing them or reminders of them with improbable frequency, having them surface in conversations with others, feeling sudden urges to check your phone right before they do contact you. You might be picking up on the way someone's intense focus on you creates tangible effects in the field, and those effects are asking you to take seriously what your rational mind keeps trying to explain away. The patterns suggest you might be experiencing this person wrestling with timing, with approach, with how to bridge the distance without seeming desperate or making things awkward. You could be sensing them rehearsing different versions of initial contact, weighing what's too casual versus too intense, overthinking to a degree that keeps them frozen. You might be picking up on someone who wants to reach out perfectly because you matter too much for them to risk getting it wrong. And that perfectionism, while understandable, is what keeps the outreach perpetually in the realm of intention rather than action. What's significant is that you could be dealing with someone who's aware of their own intensity and is actively trying to manage it so they don't overwhelm you. You might be sensing someone who's calibrating constantly how much to show, how much to hold back, how to be present without being too present. You could be picking up on someone who's terrified that if they revealed the full scope of how they feel, it would scare you off. So they're trying to love you at a volume they think you can handle rather than at the actual amplitude they're experiencing. This reflection invites you to consider what you'd actually want to know about how someone experiences you, and whether you'd prefer careful restraint or honest revelation, even if the revelation is intense. You might be experiencing moments where you test your theory about this person's feelings, sharing something to see how they respond, being less available to see if they notice, mentioning other people to gauge if there's jealousy. You could be engaging in subtle reconnaissance because some part of you knows what you're sensing is real, but another part needs additional confirmation. You might be observing that the results of these tests consistently suggest deeper investment than casual friendship. Yet you keep needing more data because accepting what's in front of you would require you to make choices about what you do with that information. What's coming through in the reverberations is that you could be picking up on someone who's more ready than they appear. You might be sensing beneath the hesitation and the overthinking a bedrock of clarity about wanting you in their life in expanded capacity. You could be dealing with someone who's not confused about their feelings, only about their worthiness to express them, about your receptivity to receiving them, about whether the risk is proportional to the potential reward. And all that questioning creates the appearance of uncertainty when what's actually present is caution born from how much is at stake for them. So as you sit with what you've been sensing versus what you've been doubting, notice where the doubt is actually coming from. You might be experiencing internal voices that tell you people like that don't feel things like this for people like you, that you're inflating normal friendliness into something more, that you're setting yourself up for disappointment. But underneath those protective narratives, notice what your body knows. Notice the consistent data your intuitive channels have been collecting. Notice the pattern of signs that all point in the same direction. Trust that you're not making this up. Trust that the intensity you feel emanating from someone's direction is real, even if it hasn't translated into the kind of pursuit you expected. Trust that love, interest, captivation, whatever you want to call what this person carries for you, doesn't always announce itself conventionally. Sometimes it shows up as restraint that looks like indifference until you understand the fear underneath. Sometimes it manifests as obsessive internal focus that stays hidden because the person experiencing it doesn't know how to make it external safely. And you're perceptive enough to feel all of that. Stop talking yourself out of what you know. The question isn't whether this person's in love with you. The question is what you're going to do with the accurate information your system has been giving you about exactly that.